Blizzard are their own worst enemy. Or so Bellular says. We talked about this $75 treehouse and how Blizzard's just trying to milk these guys. Look, Hearthsteel, it's a thing. People are using it. People will continue to use it. Decor items and housing in general. I mean, why do you guys think Blizzard made it? Out of the goodness of their own heart? They made it to make money. We know that. So, but have they gone mad? That's the question here. Let's see what Bellular has to say about some of these new housing items and the direction the game is currently going and what this all means.
Well, we've come a long way from the Sparkle Pony, haven't we? You probably didn't miss this bit of news. Blizzard are already pushing their luck with the housing shop, where there's a new bundle on the store that costs 7,500 Hearthsteel. That's $75. A hell of a lot of money for a bundle in a game that, of course, we're paying a sub for. And as many people are pointing out, it's more expensive than Midnight itself.
Yeah,
hell, the Midnight Base Edition plus 1 month of game time is still less than that. And only one thing in the entire store's history has been more expensive, and that is obviously the Brutosaur. That was a massive success by, I guess, financial accounts, and I guess helped prove to Blizzard.
I think it's going to come back. If they don't bring it back, I mean, they're going to bring some different colorway, maybe a different option on the back of this thing. But I know, man, this thing was so damn popular. I just know from my own chat, everybody fucking bought it. I was giving this thing away. People were going nuts over it. I mean, yeah, to say the Brutosaur was a success, I think is an understatement.
That big special items can actually bring in the cash, even if they have exorbitant pricing. This $75 bundle is another attempt to prove that true, and they have brought out the big guns to make sure of it. And by that I mean something they've literally never sold before. So, the new housing bundle has a giant stack of new decor, but it also has something they have not sold before, which is new exteriors. Quick thing first, have you ever wondered how spam callers get your number, or how just eerie things seem to happen in the internet where people appear to have your data when they shouldn't? It happens a lot, and a big reason is data brokers. They buy your personal info.
The fact that these things are exteriors, it seems like it's like a transmog. They're basically selling the coolest transmog in the game on the store, of course. We've seen that before with regular T-Mog, and we'll see it with housing items. I mean, we all know the best housing items are going to be from the store. That's just how it's going to be. And that's just a typical play on how these stores work.
Requests to these brokers on your behalf. They do it automatically, and they do it continuously. Well, that's because brokers recollect your data even after it's been taken down, so doing it yourself is not a one-time fix.
I hired my mic volume.
Keep scanning and keep sending takedowns. Now, I've had mine running since 2023, and right now I can see 257 requests have been made across 48 brokers, 250 are completed, and it's actively monitoring 21 to make sure my data actually stays down. And honestly, with a lot of that talk from Anthropic and the OpenAI stuff about domestic mass surveillance enabled by AI, especially when enabled through commercially available datasets, well, yeah, I think the likes of this just got so much more important. And the best news is that at incogni.com/bellularwarcraft, code bellularwarcraft, you'll get 60% off the annual plan, which is the plan that I use. So go hit up the link below.
Wow.
There are now a grand total of 6 exteriors in the game, and 2 of them are for sale. Tauren, Forsaken, Dwarves, most races have got nothing. And the really rough bit here is you can't even buy these things individually. You've got to get both of them for another $40 bundle, which of course will be without any of the accompanying decor. Now, all of the accompanying decor matches the color and aesthetic directly, making it almost a necessity to get at least some of these decor items if you actually want the outside of your house to look like something and, you know, to match the big house exterior that you just bought. They're basically selling themed starter packs for more than a full-price AAA game. It's actually $5 more than one of the more premium Diablo IV editions, and the base Diablo IV is $39.99, which is way less than this. And that comparison...
Look, I wish we could actually see the numbers for this thing, because, like, I mean, like, we're not typical WoW players. The WoW player that typically consumes, you know, WoW Twitch streams and WoW YouTube content, you are really like, not the casual. Even if you play the game casually, in terms of news, you are not the casual observer of WoW news. Most people out there don't know what the fuck's going on in the game. They just log in every day. They pay their $15 a month sub. Greg from accounting, he pays attention a little bit more. But there's a lot of people out there, they just work a day job and they log in at night. And those people, they're not really outraged about $75 housing items. They're just not. They just don't see the news bits and the anger and the reactions to it. They're just like, oh, that's a pretty little house thing. Maybe I should buy that. I don't know. What do you think? And and they'll buy it. And I'm sure there's tons of people that buy this shit. Blizzard's not going to be making it if they don't buy it. Okay, and $75, while it seems like a lot of money, I think there's just some people that spend their money in this game and they don't care.
Will be very important later. Now look, I could rag on this all day, especially given the fact that they launched, this alongside a totally busted patch. But that wouldn't be all that useful. People all across the internet are doing a much better job of that anyway. I'd much rather talk about why this is so expensive. Not to defend it, absolutely not. But to put it in context, so you know what's actually going on.
It's a lot.
And maybe to convince Blizzard, if you're watching, well, I know a bunch of you are, why this is a really, really, really bad idea. Okay, so here's the deal. This is textbook whaling, obviously.
Yeah.
Housing is a new feature, and their numbers department are going to be drooling over all the kinds of data that they can get. They poked the low-end sales with the little plushies they put in at the start. Those were inoffensive little sales that nobody would really need, even if they arguably did break Blizzard's own rule of having no faction fantasy within the paid offerings for housing. The spreadsheet enjoyers were, of course, watching the sales numbers go up, and using years of store data that they've accumulated, they probably figured out a baseline. There's whole departments that do this kind of thing at big game companies, and they'll be working out things like how many bundles were bought versus just individual items for little tiny amounts of Hearthsteel here and there, or perhaps who was buying more Hearthsteel than they needed. And if they're really good, they'll even track how much of it was Battle.net balance from WoW tokens. Now, shortly after the plushies, we got the decor bundles, and even they seemed pretty expensive. We actually did quite the spicy video on it. It was $35 for a large pack of decor, which got you unique items and some bonus Hearthsteel. So they obviously know people will buy these things.
They are making so much money. They are making so much money. I forgot about these too. Jesus. Look, if they weren't, they've already been doing this. I mean, how long has the expansion been out? 6 months now? How deep are we into this shit? They are making tons of money. They would be dropping the prices on this shit if they weren't. It's selling. I'm telling you, these are digital fucking items. There's no limit to how many they can make. They just keep making them. So, I mean, yeah, people buying this shit up for sure. I'm telling you, they're having a great time with Hearthsteel. It doesn't matter how much, Twitch chat says I'll never buy them, or the YouTube comments say I'll never buy them. There are a lot of people who are buying them. And they're whales. They make up for the difference.
You know what price, and with what we're talking about today, they are testing another upper limit to that price. It's almost like a negotiation, you see, between the player base and Blizzard. How high are we willing to go to buy some decor? They probably have a good idea by now, just like how they know what mounts or transmog sets will sell for. But the next question is how high we will go for a different class of item. That's where a lot of their future dollars could be, so they're fishing. Will we bite for $40 exteriors, or will we buy the $75 bundles? Will those sell more? We can't know ahead of time, of course, but we'll definitely get the answer. The next bundle will tell us.
Yeah.
If it's cheaper, then maybe this was too expensive and they're testing another direction. If it's even more expensive, then their whaling will have been successful.
Yeah, and that's why I said that. When he showed the $35 bundle, now we have a $75 bundle. That was the whole point behind that. The shit that I was saying was it was clearly good. They clearly sold a lot. If 35 didn't sell shit, they're not going to drop a 75. So as these numbers continue to rise and until they stabilize, we're seeing success from this shit. They're buying it. People are eating it up, and Blizzard's making money on it. That's why we keep seeing more of it.
But of course, none of this happens in a vacuum. Well, at least for you and me. The problem with large corporations, a big company like Blizzard, is things actually do happen in a vacuum. They're handled by different people, different sets of responsibilities, different departments, which means it's possible, and indeed likely, that a corporation will act more stupid than the sum of its parts. And that's what's happened here. There's likely a bit of a hitch in their whaling strategy. This kind of thing only works if people are happy with the game. And right now, there's a lot of people who aren't. I don't think I really need to tell you why. I can summarize it though. The parts of 1205 that didn't work really didn't work. 1207 looks genuinely great so far, but we've got no reason to believe it will launch cleanly. And even though, actually, I think a bunch of the 1205 stuff is pretty damn good now that it's a bit tidied up and working, well, for many people, the damage has been done. The trust is gone. And Blizzard's response has not been ideal, to say the least. We just released a video covering a damage control interview they set up, and really all the ways that it betrayed the way they think about the game, from story to bugs to patch schedule.
Yeah, definitely the timing and release of this shit was not the best, but I'm sure they have like goals and all kinds of quarterly shit that they got to do as a company. You know, they make games, right, for a living. But they're still just like any other corporation. They have their quarterly shit they got to hit. They have their stuff they got to get out on time. And even if the patch hit like fucking, like a dead body, you essentially had this treehouse that had to come out and they were just going to launch it. They didn't give a fuck. I mean, look at that. We got somebody here in chat saying there's like 5 treehouses in their guild neighborhood. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. People buy this shit. Like, I think we get caught up in an echo chamber of Twitch and YouTube where we think everybody thinks like us. It's not the case. Most people out there are just casual players, and they don't see anything wrong with this. They're going to buy the $75 treehouse and move on with their day.
It was concerning. Now, to be clear, I still think Midnight has a hell of a lot going for it. I really do. But
believe it or not, there are people out there who don't even know the last patch was bugged. I'm telling you. There are people who they're blissful ignorance in WoW. They maybe didn't even play the week that the patch launched. They maybe didn't actually get, had the extra rolls or anything, so they didn't deal with some of the bugs. Maybe they just caught one bug and they didn't even notice it had happened. And they're just playing the game. They're just playing the game. The only way they would have known this shit was broken is if they watched a YouTube video about it or something. Other than that, they're just like, yeah, this game's great. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there like that.
There is a noticeable dip in Blizzard's public opinion over handling the post-launch period of this expansion, and that has put a little bit of doubt into the immediate future. You see, it's easy to say that whoever's running the store at Blizzard clearly doesn't care about any of this shit. And it's not really their job to care. That's
right.
Not their bag. The content train must reach the next station. That's the core development team's thing. The shop experiments, well, those always seem to run on time no matter what. There's no process within Blizzard that says, are we willing to sacrifice a little bit of revenue and delay an experiment we want to make in order to, well, have our public perception be just a tad better? No, there is none of that. These things operate on separate tracks. And in a company as lumbering as Blizz, clearly no one has the speed, authority, or guts to say, hey, this is not the best time to run a high-end pricing experiment. I'm sure many employees of the company do think that. In fact, based on what I know, I'd say very many people working at Blizzard think this is an awfully timed thing. Now, not just because of unhappy players that may spend less money, but also because releasing a $75 housing bundle before the other racial exteriors is going to make players feel like it's incessant greed. And what we feel is maybe the single most important thing in the long term. And here's the deal. Blizzard follows a lot of numbers, their analytics, etc. But before that, you get anecdote. And by the time things manifest in the form of numbers that aren't where you want them to be, the damage has already been done. If you've just followed the numbers, you will be led astray. But it's not just money.
If people are buying, why are people complaining? Are they just jealous of the ugly tree houses? No, I think it's an optics thing. I think people are bitching about, the patch dropping the way it did, which, rightfully so. That thing was kind of broken. So people are angry about that, and the next thing they see is a $75 treehouse, and they're looking at Blizzard going, well, what the fuck? You're spending all your time creating these damn $75 decor items instead of having more quality control on your patches, and that's why we're having the issues we're having. It's because your focus is on other places. And while some of that might be true, the truth is these teams don't cross over at all. I guarantee you. These guys who are just these artists out there and these digital designers who are just making decor items and shit have nothing to do with the patch launch. I think they wish more people did. That's the thing. And I think, it's just the optics of the release of it and everything that makes people angry. Also, the fact that they kind of locked the best items in the game behind money when you're already paying a sub and buying the game, I think that always pisses people off.
If it was only money, then you could make the argument of delay this, launch it right, launch it better, and your long-term numbers will be more healthy. But within the cogs and incentive structures of a company such as Blizzard, well, money now is more important than money later. Of course, we know Microsoft have been pushing them for profit so that the $70-odd billion they spent on the big acquisition makes sense for them. That's the world we're living in, and the deal we make playing a game like WoW. As players, we're mostly happy to buy the odd Epic Edition to stay subscribed and maybe pick up the odd cosmetic we like from the store. And the funny thing is, Diablo 4's recent WoW-inspired cosmetics are a really good example of that.
Badass.
We've seen WoW release a housing exterior, or a pack of them, and spark fury. But then Diablo adds some WoW gear and actually have it spark excitement. Why is that?
I think Diablo right now is in a great place, so people don't mind it. When if the opposite was happening, people would be angry. I definitely think the state of the game determines how some of these store items hit, for sure.
Well, it's all because of the vibes, you see. Lord of Hatred is making people happy. I personally am almost, I don't want to say shocked, but I am surprised by just how well Lord of Hatred is landing with me. And as much as it's insane to me to look at the D4 store and see these WoW things.
Nith coming in with the prime, man. Thank you so much. 14 months of being a Death Knight Ever Scourge. What a champion. Like this freaking amazing looking Judgment set. Jesus, man. This is what like a full-blown 4K ultra high definition WoW would look like. My God. That is a badass set. I mean, I'm not even a pally boy, but shit, I cannot deny how badass this is.
$88 each, or like $54 for all of them, 74% discount. I roll my eyes at that. But I also do remember, well, I buy the Diablo expansion once, and that's it. There's no monthly fee. I can just play every single season. It's literally a different business model to World of Warcraft, so it's harder to do this type of thing right in WoW, but to double down on that being tough, 1205 is a busted patch, so people already don't feel fantastic about the sub fee that they're putting into the game.
True.
That means it just doesn't feel worth it at all. Now, to be honest, this might actually be one of the worst times imaginable for Blizzard to be pushing their luck, and that's because the honeymoon phase of housing appears to have ended. I wasn't keeping track of this. I'll tell you what, I certainly raised my eyebrows when I saw the headlines. So, we've seen over the last few weeks, players have grown increasingly dissatisfied. Or at least, some of them. But within the housing space, it's so much so that Wowhead has posted an article asking if Blizzard should consider tying it into player power.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a very easy answer, and that is no.
Fuck
never. No. As someone who survived the Shadowlands, please don't do that. That would
be horrible. I swear, I think there's people who would stop playing. There are people who would stop playing. My house has not been touched. My house is sitting there. I think I put like a fucking, like a jizz chair and a fucking table in that thing. I have nothing going on in my house. I have not visited it in months. And that's fine. I don't have to, right? There's no reason for me to have to go to my house unless I want to fuck around with decor items. So right now, that thing's just sitting there. Will I ever go back to it? I don't know. Maybe. If I get bored or so, I have no idea. I'm not really into the whole thing. But for the people that are, I'm glad it's a feature for them, but it should never be player power attached. Jesus. Could you imagine that shit? You got a quest, if you want to get to the, upgrade your item, you got to go put some pillows on your couch. Oh my God. People would lose their damn minds. No way. No way. They can't do that, and I don't think they will. I don't think player housing necessarily isn't popular, but maybe there's a bit of a drop-off, like everything else.
Send us back years to the horrible time where every single activity in the game had some form of unique player power that you felt you needed. I mean, to this day, I believe Torghast has been done dirty purely by its reward design. And, well, a few of the really cool versions of Torghast that Blizzard game jammed internally, but that can't be talked about in public. They had some really damn cool ideas, but you saw they weren't able to fit them into the game in a way that made sense. Anyway, possible rage bait headline from Wowhead aside,
Probably.
The article does highlight a bunch of problems that people have got. And basically, it's death by 1,000 cuts once you start reading into the ongoing issues. Now, I'll be clear, for a MMO going from 0 to 1 with housing, I think they've broadly done a fantastic job. The tools are really, really nice to use. There's a bunch with it that shows real care and real craft.
Oh, yeah.
There's also reasons that's not hitting as hard as it should. One of them is bugs. Housing has been getting worse rather than better since launch. rather surprisingly. You see, until recently, floors didn't work. Yeah, your floor type would reset randomly, which would rather obviously break the entire aesthetic of every non-default room in your house. People are reporting that walls are doing the same, and then there's a rotation bug where rugs and stools and other ground items won't save their rotation correctly. And there's a placement bug with only advanced mode being able to save certain item positions correctly. Well, think about it this way. Putting items down can suck, but even when you've put them down, you can't trust that the items won't, well, move themselves about after you've placed them, which for a feature like this is really quite bad indeed. But unfortunately for Blizz, it's not just building and decorating where there are issues. Cracks are showing elsewhere. Housing levels have proven to be a bit more busy work than excitement, I would say, and that's especially once you run out of easy sources of decor. I mean, at times you quite literally have to collect decor items that you don't want in order to increase the housing limit stuff to place the decor that you do want and perhaps already have.
Nice.
It's a bit weird. Then there's endeavors. They seem like a nice touch, but they started repeating, which kind of broke the spell of there being lots to do. Really, when they launched, the possibilities felt endless. And in a way, it's not Blizzard's fault, but they accidentally set up some big expectations.
Yeah, do we even have an active endeavor in our guild right now? I don't even know if I'm supposed to go activate another one, but yeah, I mean, endeavors, they're fine. The thing is, like, you get credit for them, even just doing regular content. You're killing raid bosses or running Mythic Plus, you're getting credit towards the endeavors. So that's about as much endeavoring as I do. It resets in 24 hours anyway. Okay, there you go. So, yeah, they're fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm not somebody who can really speak to the state of player housing because I don't participate in it. And maybe that is the state of player housing. Maybe most players are where I am.
We have a realm
Good
to
go.
destroy.
Thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our scourge. Maybe that's where most people sit. They're just not doing it. It's kind of becoming a no man's land. Just the really intent housing people are in there, and then everyone else is just not doing it anymore.
Which ended up collapsing into, for some people, some disappointment. Getting decor itself does seem to be mostly fine, but not everyone agrees with that. Some say they're struggling with playing enough to actually get everything that they want. And of course, lots of time collecting leads to less time for building. But building time is another concern, and I've got to say personally, it's the #1 reason why I have not engaged with this feature as much as I thought I would. Basically, I'm in the camp of people holding out for improvements because I'm fairly sure those improvements will come. And that's mostly because we don't yet have import and export codes, and that means that decorating your house is a bit like making a sand mandala. It's designed to be temporary. If you want to try a new build, you might have to remake the old one from scratch later. Now, if we were never getting loadouts, perhaps that would be kind of freeing. But because we know loadouts are in the works, well, I guess people like me will be waiting.
Right.
In fact, that's maybe housing's biggest problem in a way. We know it isn't finished. The decor limits keep going up. That's baked into the progression system itself. Now you might think that sounds engaging, and perhaps is a nice on-ramp. That's true enough, I guess, but there is another side to it. It means that people can never finish a build. You're not finished within the game's limits because the limits aren't fixed. Same goes for the rest of the features. We know there's a housing roadmap in the works, but it's been a while since we've heard anything about it. So right now, housing almost exists in limbo. Players don't know whether they should prep for increased decor limits, new housing levels, or new exteriors. They don't know if loadouts will be next month or next year. There's certainly a lot of edit mode tweaks that...
I think loadouts are certainly a big feature that some people wait for. I don't know about raising limits being a problem, though. I think that's great. I think raising limits awesome. You could put more fucking flowers if you want. Put more of whatever shit you want. More cuck chairs. Whoever cares. I don't think that's holding people back necessarily. I just think when housing first came out, everyone was trying it, messing around with it. And eventually it's just going to dwindle down to the people who really love it. The niche, WoW housing players. And that's just how it's going to be. WoW housing's never going to be the mainstream way to play the game. This is still an MMO. People are going to raid and do Mythic Plus. Those are the main ways to play. PvP has its people. Housing's going to have its people. And those people are going to play it no matter what. I don't know if they're waiting for item levels to go, or the amount of items you can have to go up. I don't think that's a thing.
I would like to see be added in.
I just think it's dwindling down to its main core player base. And Blizzard will hold that core player base and milk them for everything they're worth. So Yeah, they'll be fine. I think housing will be just fine.
And just so that it kind of feels like a bit of a nicer, more power usery
people
piece of
understand.
software. But what that all boils down to is uncertainty. You see, uncertainty has been shown to be one of the most dangerous things in a game like this. That's because, to many people, their time and their effort are investments. Of course, so is their money. And that's likely why Blizzard will see, well, I would imagine, lower than expected sales of this new bundle. Because in a way, Blizzard are asking for increased investment, but they're doing that without laying out a future that people are happy to invest in. And of course, they have set up obvious perverse incentives. If they start selling big housing exteriors like this, essentially as prefabs, well, what does that imply for exterior decor limits? Because that new fancy house can just be like one item, right? Not some big complex hodgepodge that you've put together. And that means that players who purchase these cool new houses and therefore don't have to customize their house as much with regular exterior decor items, well, they're going to be able to put way more items into their gardens and their landscapes, which, given how limited the exterior decor limits are, will make a huge difference between the haves and the have-nots with this feature. And that will make people feel bad. And here's where the corporate stuff I dangled earlier actually becomes relevant. Housing has got a long way to go to live up to its full potential. That's a measure of there being improvements to make, but it's also, in my view, a measure of just how grand that potential is. Now here's the problem. The ideal way for this to run is fairly obvious. Do the roadmap. Execute a bunch of the roadmap, and then start to increase the monetization once players feel like you've actually earned it, and once you've actually seen players engage with the system over months upon months upon months, meaning you'll better understand their pain points and what sort of things they would like, or perhaps even resonate with. And with a system like player housing, there's obviously some pressure to show to the bean counters that it's actually leading to the numbers going up.
That's the thing. They really can't wait. Like investment to return on investment, the time between those two things. It's corporate America, and the stakeholders just don't have the fucking patience for it. Like if Blizzard wanted to say, we got a 5-year plan for making money off of housing, and for 5 years we're not going to make shit. We're just going to make the system perfect, and then we're going to start making money. I'm pretty sure that would see a lot of pushback from investors. They don't want to see that. They want to see this shit hit the ground running. Start making money right away. No patience for the grind. So, yeah, I don't think Blizzard ever had the option, honestly, to launch housing and then say we'll make money off of it down the line. It needed to start making money right away.
Even if that means hurting the reputation of that feature and perhaps even hurting its long-term potential. And the fundamental cock-up is simple. It feels like Blizzard are asking for more money while we deal with more bugs, while a roadmap that they said would be coming has not materialized. This is a PR issue, and to be honest, Blizzard, I think, are the undisputed kings of stepping on this specific rake time and time again. I do like to think of what a specific solution could look like, and I guess it's probably something along these lines. It would probably involve perhaps Holly, perhaps Ian, someone formalizing some sort of protocol, maybe with Blizzard's president.
What roadmap is he talking about? Blizzard had promised a housing roadmap. They said they were going to come out with one, just like we get with, the expansions and everything else, or basically everything that's going to be happening in housing, what they plan on improving, what the future plans are, but they haven't done that yet. That's what he's talking about.
Johanna Fares, because at the end of the day, her job is to make stuff work with Microsoft and run the big ship. I think there needs to be a protocol where leadership of WoW can say, hey, look, this right now would make life harder for my team and probably hurt our long-term revenue. I think they need some sort of protocol, something that is established within the system of Blizzard that can escalate PR-related issues so they can be tackled in a way that feels direct. That's essentially the problem here. There's too many layers of separation. There are too many arms of Blizzard, all working not really with a great idea of what the other arms are doing. That leads to a customer experience that does not feel cohesive. And that's bad because the customer's relationship is not with you, the game director, you, the executive producer, you, the individual game developer at Blizzard. No, it's with the company.
Yeah.
And if the company acts more stupid than the sum of its parts, Well, tough shit.
Well, that's what leadership's for. And that's when you know someone has a good leader, right? And that's oftentimes like the advantage to startups and shit is they're not so big that the arms can't talk to the head and all that shit. Like there's not that much, there isn't that much there aren't that many barriers in a small startup company. When you're as big as Blizzard is, yeah, not all the parts are always talking to each other. Everyone's kind of off doing their thing, hitting their goals, doing what they got to do to get their numbers out. And that's what leadership's supposed to do. They're supposed to bridge all those gaps. They're supposed to bring all that together. They're supposed to be the communication mouthpiece between all the different parts, make sure everything's aligned and everything. And it doesn't sound like that's exactly happening.
It's going to be your problem to deal with. They need to do something about this. But for any of that to happen, they need an argument that sounds credible. And I think there's a fairly simple one. If you were to pull something like this from the store, refund people, and maybe put them into the game in some other way, whatever it may be, that would be of extremely high signaling value. You see, it would be Blizzard saying, okay, actually, we're not going to do this thing to make the money go up because we actually care about how much you trust us and the value of our relationship, and we're willing to sacrifice a little bit of short-term money.
If they really wanted other people to try housing out and like really get into it more, they should put some cool shit like this on the trading post. Like if somebody who hasn't done any housing, but then you give them like a, I don't know, like a tree house or some kind of, Lich King inspired outer decoration or whatever, make your home look like the fucking Ice Crown Citadel or something. From the trading post, I think people would actually say, oh, this is a really cool looking house exterior. I think I might go back to housing and try this. I'm going to get this off the trading post and go see what it looks like. I think that's where, where they can actually get people to go back into housing if that's what they really want to do. Certainly $75 store items is not the way.
In order to make sure that relationship is good. That's the type of thing that actually buys trust, because talk is cheap. Action is what actually matters, and a specific costly action is of high signaling value, and in this case would be highly emotionally resonant. That is the type of PR Blizzard has thus far never been able to do. We've seen many other companies actually be able to do it fairly successfully. I hope they find a way, because man, I am tired of a Blizzard that, because of its structure and its decision making, is just consistently able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
And this story isn't the only recent example. The other recent example is what we cover in this next video, which is about to pop up on your screen. I'll see you over there.
Nice. Yeah, nice video overall from Bellular. I totally understand the outrage with the timing of everything, right? The WoW items dropping at the same time that the patch was broken. Not the best optics-wise, but we'll continue to see store items. It's why Blizzard made the fucking housing shit. So this will continue to happen. We'll continue to see this kind of shit go down. We'll see if Blizzard does what I'm saying and eventually start to give us some cool trading post items or something related to housing. I think that's a good way to pull the non-housing Andes back into housing. But for now, it just seems like it's a store play. That's what housing was. And I said that from the very beginning. That's what it was going to be. A nice video overall from Bellular.